In Avengers Doomsday, we get an epic shot reminiscent of this one, and this one from previous Avengers films. But whereas all of those featured every hero in the film, this one doesn't. So the question then becomes, where is everyone else? Hey everybody, Colton here, and in the leaked footage from Avengers Doomsday, we see Steve Rogers, Thor, Yelena, Sam, Shang-Chi, Mr. Fantastic, Cyclops, Beast, Nightcrawler, Gambit, and Mystique assemble in an epic fashion against giant sentinels being manned by Doctor Doom. But where the hell are the other 16 confirmed heroes for this movie? I'm going to go through every confirmed character for Avengers Doomsday that is absent from this big fight against Doom, and I'm going to tell you where I think they are at the time of this fight, and we'll even talk about some characters that are unconfirmed, like Deadpool and Wolverine, who are missing from this shot as well. And we're going to have some fun, and I'm going to tell you the different teams that I think we will see being formed at the end of the first act of Doomsday, and the missions that they will be going on in the second act, which is when this scene is taking place. Okay, so let's start with a list of who all is missing. I'm going to take the entire chair watch list of actors, characters that are confirmed for the movie, and I'm going to subtract all the ones that are in this shot. That leaves us with Invisible Woman, Human Torch, The Thing, Bucky, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Ghost, John Walker, Namor, Sentry, Falcon, Red Guardian, M'Baku, Loki, Professor X, and Magneto. So we know from some leaks and reliable sources that when the Fantastic Four rocket arrives on Earth 616, the mainline MCU, on board are Reed, Ben, Steve Rogers, Thor, and Doctor Doom. But we do not know if Johnny, Sue, and Franklin are also on board the ship. Now, after arriving in Earth 616, we know that Reed, Doom, Steve, Thor, and all the Avengers that are also in this scene, they have piled into the rocket, which can travel between universes, and they have traveled to the Fox X-Men universe, where this big fight is happening. But the question then becomes, well, where is Ben? We know that he comes to Earth.
King M'Baku of Wakanda.
Ben, Yancey Street, between Broome and Grand.
From leaked set images, we know that Ben is with John Walker and Joaquin Torres at the TVA. My guess is that a few other characters have accompanied them to the TVA, and I think those characters will be Shuri's Black Panther, Ant-Man, and Ghost. And I think that's a really fun pairing of characters. We have Shuri with her big brain, so I think it makes sense for her to go to the TVA to attempt to solve this multiversal crisis or acquire the multiversal tech she needs to enact her plan to stop incursions or whatever. And I think she could have some great interactions with Ben Grimm, who is used to Reed Richards, the smartest person on Earth, being with him, and he could be really impressed with how smart Shuri is. And he could even say something like, you know, my best friend, he's the smartest person alive on my planet. I would assume on your planet, you are the smartest person alive, which has actually been confirmed by Kevin Feige. Now, as for Ant-Man, he has a connection to the quantum realm and to Kang, so I think it just makes sense that we would see him travel to the TVA. They've kind of been building up to that with the slight connections between Loki and Quantumania. And then, of course, you have Ghost. She has a connection to Ant-Man, so I think that would be a fun team-up that builds upon what has come before. And if they're doing a heist mission at the TVA, Ant-Man and Ghost would be perfect picks. And I also think Ant-Man could have some great, funny chemistry with The Thing. There's also John Walker and Joaquin, who are going to have some awkwardness, some tension. There's that tension between them regarding, you know, Walker's time as Captain America when he basically stole the role from Sam. And there's the new tension of Joaquin being a part of Sam's Avengers team, while John Walker is on Yelena's Avengers team. So it'll be fun to see them having to work together and to both kind of be taken aback with the situation they have found themselves in the middle of, traveling to the TVA with a giant rock guy and a guy that can shrink. And you know, I really like the idea of Yelena and Sam, the leaders of these two separate Avengers teams, having to work together. And so I think it's cool that we're seeing them as a team and watching Thor and Steve Rogers work together and getting to see that firsthand. I think that's cool. And I'm glad that we're going to see that elsewhere with like Ant-Man and Falcon, members of Sam's team, and then characters like Ghost and Walker, members of Yelena's team. They're all having to work together as well. And soon I think they'll all just be the Avengers. Okay, so that's where Ben and some of our Avengers are. Now, as for Sue, Johnny, and Franklin, I think they stayed either in their home universe, Universe 828, while Reed, Ben, and Doom went to pick up Steve and go to the MCU, or maybe just Sue and Franklin stayed in 828, and Johnny actually goes with Ben and Reed and Doom. And in that case, I think that if Johnny is in Earth 616, I think perhaps he stays on Earth 616 when Reed goes to the X-Men universe and Ben goes to the TVA. And that would then have it to where each member of the Fantastic Four are separate. Ben's at the TVA, Reed's at the X-Men universe, Johnny's on 616, and Sue is back on 828. Now with Johnny left behind on Earth 616, that means we'd get to see him team up with Bucky and Red Guardian, who I think will be working with M'Baku and Namor to protect Earth. And again, this theme of, previously warring individuals now having to work together will be continued with seeing M'Baku and Namor having to work together. So that'll be great, and then we get to see Human Torch and Bucky together. That just sounds awesome. My wife is gonna levitate out of her seat. And of course, you can't go wrong with Red Guardian, who's just happy to be there. I think his chemistry with Bucky is great. And of course, Bucky has a history with the Wakandans, so I think it makes sense that he'd hang back to work with the Wakandans and the Talakans on protecting Earth, especially because Bucky and Yelena, I guess, are kind of co-leads of the New Avengers. Yelena's the main lead, but if she's going off-world to the X-Men universe on that mission, that kind of leaves Bucky as, the representative of the Avengers. So Human Torch alongside Bucky and Red Guardian, they hang back to guard Earth 616 alongside the Wakandans and the Talakans. The Thing, Falcon, John Walker, Ant-Man, and Ghost, they go to the TVA to find Loki, and then Steve, Thor, Doom, Reed, Yelena, Sam, and Shang-Chi, they have traveled to the X-Men universe, and I think with them is also Bob the Sentry. Now, why isn't he in this shot if he's there in that universe with them? Well, because if rumors are to be believed, we are actually going to see the Void get unleashed and fight Magneto and Professor Xavier. And Xavier will enter the Void's mind and have a fight with him, of which he will win. And maybe we could even see Bob finally get freed so that the Sentry can just be the Sentry and have his power without having to worry about his darker half emerging. So that addresses where all of the confirmed cast could be during this specific scene of the film. But there's also a lot of unconfirmed casts that will be popping up in this movie, and I want to know their location for this second act as well. Specifically, I want to talk about Deadpool, Wolverine, and Spider-Man, the Tobey version. It is rumored that the movie opens with Deadpool and Wolverine at the Order of the X-Men. They are planting a universe-destroying bomb in Tobey's universe because his universe is colliding with the X-Men universe, like the many other universes that have collided with the X-Men universe before. Rumor has it they have been encountering a lot of incursions, and the X-Men have taken the approach of destroying the other universe instead of just allowing for both to collide and die. Now, rumors suggest that Wolverine does actually stay behind after planting the bomb, and he and Spider-Man witness the reality collapse. And it's kind of left open-ended on whether or not they survived, but we of course know, yes, they will survive. Now, part of that rumor is also that Deadpool will escape using a tent pad, which has me thinking that, well, then he'd go back to the X-Men universe, right? But we're not seeing him here in this lineup, so that kind of brings me to thinking maybe he actually uses the tent pad to go to the TVA to see what the hell is going on, and it's there we could see Deadpool run into the Thing's team of heroes. Now, as for Wolverine and Spider-Man, I think that they may actually wind up in the Void, and I think they're going to have big roles to play in Avengers Secret Wars. I think they will be two of the only heroes that remember the multiverse before it collapsed, which I think it will at the end of Doomsday. Remember, the rumor is that when Doomsday finishes, the multiverse will have died, and all of our characters will be resurrected in the Void or Battle World, but like in the comics, they will have no recollection of their lives before Battle World. So, seeing the OG Spider-Man and the OG Wolverine, the Spider-Man and Wolverine from my childhood leading a revolt against Robert Downey Jr., Dr. Doom, oh my god. Yes. Thank you. Now, as for some other characters that aren't confirmed to be in the movie, but that we think might be, Owen Wilson as Mobius comes to mind. I think he could pop up at the TVA. Sylvie as well. Maybe she could be revealed to be like a witch working with Dr. Doom. We know that she's very involved with all this multiverse stuff, and maybe she agrees with Doom's plan to, or at least his proposed plan that he's probably lying about, to save the multiverse, or maybe he's telling her the truth about his plan and she agrees with it. We'll just have to see. There's also B-15. She could show up at the TVA. In fact, I think that's kind of likely. They brought her in for Deadpool and Wolverine. In fact, if we see the TVA get like attacked by Doom or something, I could see B-15 being a character that we actually see get killed. Now, as for back at the X-Men universe, you would think that Monica Rambeau would be there, right? And her mom as well. We know she's in the X-Men universe at the end of the Marvels. And talking about Monica Rambeau also, of course, makes me wonder, but where the hell is Brie Larson's Captain Marvel? I want Captain Marvel up in here. Maybe she'll have a bigger role to play in Secret Wars or like a surprise role coming into Doomsday. We'll just have to see. Now, we've talked a lot, right, about this leaked scene, this fight happening on the X universe with the Avengers and the X-Men teaming up and Doctor Doom betraying them and using the Sentinels to fight them. I've settled on this scene being, I think, real. I think the marketing team for the movie is likely behind it. I think the few takedowns of the footage that we have seen were coordinated. I think everything we're seeing here is, of course, what Marvel wants us to be seeing. It's part of the marketing campaign. So they're not going to be sharing anything they don't want to be a surprise, right? So I'm not surprised that certain unconfirmed characters aren't showing up in these leaks. All right, I need to run, going to see Supergirl. Stay tuned for the review of that. It will be up soon, or depending upon when you're watching this, maybe it's already up. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Colton Ogburn, and I will see you next time. Bye!